Thank you for coming to the third Thursday Tech Talk Happy Hour. As I was saying, we'll try to do these once every month or so until I get so tired of doing them. But the intent is to kind of put out content that's prescient for what's going on in the world at this time. So right now, the talk we're going to have today is about email and email identity, and it's really because Google and Yahoo have changed the rules on us. So we'll kind of go over all that and explain what they've changed and what's going on here. So the title for this I came up with was kind of difficult because it's a really odd subject to encapsulate in a title. But the title I came up with is the new email rules and the impact on your business. The other titles that I kind of experimented with were why the fuck aren't my emails being received? That one didn't play well with test audiences. Google and Yahoo's new rules go into effect June 2024. That one was like clickbait, so it didn't really explain what the rules are. Mass emailers need to know. This is like if you were at the checkout stand and it's like 10 things I hate about you. So the ABCs of DMARC, DKIM, and SPF, if you really wanted to confuse people, that's really what we're talking about today. But I mean, come on. And then spam sucks, try this instead. This is also another clickbait title. But if you jumble all those titles up, that's essentially what we're going to be talking today, is that Google and Yahoo have kind of changed the rules on us, and your emails, at least large email rules are changed, and you need to adapt with them. Otherwise, emails that you're sending out are going to end up in people's spam filters. So what really happened was Google and Yahoo set a date back in February that everybody in the world needed to have these DKIM and DMARC records, and I'll explain what those are in just a second. But they needed to have these things in place, otherwise they would send your email to spam. Right now, it's only enforced for mass emailers, and mass emailers is considered anybody who sends more than 5,000 emails a day. But so hopefully nobody in the room. But in theory, this is going to push down. This is going to push down from those mass emailers. It's going to push down. I mean, my wife sends 2,000 emails out to her e-newsletter. So these sort of rules are going to apply to those sort of people as well. Others, other than Google and Yahoo, are starting to follow suit. This is going to be a thing that everybody's going to have to do. And these technologies, these recommendations aren't new. They're just starting to now be enforced by these large receiving houses, places that receive a lot of mail and send a lot of mail. These have been recommended by Microsoft and security groups forever. It's interesting to show that it's not Microsoft that's really in charge of this, or they're not leading the charge in this case. And I think the reason behind that is because they host a lot of small businesses email, and they realize how onerous some of this is going to be for some of these small businesses. So they're not really leading the charge. It's these other large companies that are kind of leading the charge. So what are these? What do they do? Why do you need to know them? What if you just say no and try to abstain from it? So I'll back up a little bit, get on the same page. In theory, your email leaves your business, flies through the internet, and gets to my inbox. All right. So the problem is, go back to that screen. The problem is, how do I know that's really your email? How do I know that email is actually coming from you? It says it's coming from you. It has your name at the top, but how do I know that that's truly you and not somebody saying it's you? So it kind of goes back to verifying the identity. So what we're going to be trying to solve with all this stuff is identity crisis. We're trying to verify the identity of the person who's sending the email. And that's what Google and Yahoo are really trying to get at of the matter here, is they're trying to sort out who's actually sending the email. Is this a scammer, or is this really that person? In real life, we ask somebody for their ID. We need to verify their identity. In IT world, now how are we actually determining if that email comes from you? And so what it goes back to is your registrar. So your registrar is the people you bought your domain from. It's your GoDaddy, your network solutions, domain Google Domains, DomainKeys, whoever in the world you use to purchase your domain, that's your registrar. And because you paid money for your domain, in this case, richline.cc, my email, that's your identity. We're not worried about your personal identity, we're worried about your domain identity. And you paid your money for your domain, so that's who we're worried about verifying here. So your registrar is essentially your identity control machine. It's providing, you paid money for that domain. We want to make sure that when somebody gets an email from you, that we, the registrar, we are verifying that it's actually you. And so how do they do that, right? So when you buy your domain, the registrar has other products that you kind of sign up for or purchase from them. If you needed a website, you could get website hosting from your registrar, or you could go out and you could get website hosting from WordPress, whoever, but you can get it through your registrar. If you need to verify that your website is real and secure, your registrar is the people that will issue what's called an SSL certificate. And this is like an identity device for your website. If you need email, your registrar will provide you email services if you want to. Most people don't. They choose to go and take their email off to Microsoft or go Google or whoever, but you can get the email hosting from your registrar. In the same vein as your website, they will also provide the functionality or the function of verifying that your email is really you and secure. But it's not so easy as just issuing like one little certificate. It's not like you just, here's this thing you put on your website. It goes through this thing called DNS, which is also something that they can provide. And again, I'm going to get into I'll get into DNS more detail. It's the next slide, promise. So whatever it is, don't worry. But they can provide you DNS services and DNS hosting. You can also do this through somebody else, but they're going to provide that. And the DNS is the most important part. I'll tell you why here in 2 seconds. So DNS, domain name service. DNS is the phone book for the internet. We humans are not very good at remembering people's phone numbers, right? We got to have a phone book. We got to have a cell phone. I don't even know where my cell phone is right now, but we got to have a cell phone to look up somebody's phone number. It used to be we're pretty good. People in the 70s were really good at remembering people's cell phones. I am not so good. The DNS is essentially the phone book for the internet. I cannot overemphasize how important DNS is. It's basically the backbone of everything. If without DNS, the internet wouldn't function, wouldn't work. And so I'll give you this warning. You never let your website person manage your DNS. If you want to know exactly why, I'll explain later, but you don't want your website guy managing your DNS. You want your IT guy, the guy who's managing your email, to deal with your DNS. Bad things will happen. And the analogy is, it's like giving your 8-year-old the keys to your car to go get lunch, which of course is funny because that's happened twice apparently in the past 2 weeks here in Corpus Christi. So you wrecked it twice. So, yep. Anyway, so if you want to find tamu.edu, DKIM, DNS is what, if I was going to www.tamu.edu, you would type that in the search bar. DNS would go out to the internet and would do this lookup and say, hey, this guy wants to go to tamu.edu. Where is it? Because I'm a computer and I don't care about the words that he's typing in. I just need a number. I need that IP to go to. And it would actually spit out, oh, this is where you need to go. So it would route your browser over to that IP address. This is what computers understand. We understand words, they understand numbers. It translates the words to the numbers. That's essentially what DNS does. You want to send an email to Josh at richland.cc. DNS will go out and find that Josh, or just richland.cc, is hosted at Microsoft. So in order to get this email from my inbox over there, I'm going to send it through the internet and take it over, give it to Microsoft. DNS does all that magically in the background. It's wonderful, wonderful. But then the complication comes from that question. How do I verify that this email that says it's from Josh, Josh at richland.cc, is really from the domain at richland.cc, or somebody lying to me, somebody spoofing my email address? So that's what we're here to discuss. It took me 9 freaking slides to get to what are we actually here to talk about. That's sad. This is IT crap. This is why people don't do IT crap, because it's too bloody complicated. So how do we do it? How do we determine that this email that says it's from Josh is really from richland.cc? The first one we'll talk about is called SPF. It's not sunproof factor. It's not going to keep you from getting sunburned. It's Sender Protection Framework in this case. Sender Protection Framework is kind of what it says. It's a protection for the sender. It lists all the places that you may send an email from. So I might send email from my Office 365, or maybe my email's hosted at Google Workspace, or maybe it's somewhere else. It's going to list that as being, hey, this is where most of my email is coming from. Then it's also going to list every freaking thing else. So if you have a MailChimp or Constant Contact, you have like an e-newsletter that you sent out, it's got to list that because that's a source of email. So yes, your Constant Contact, your whatever, or MailChimp is actually in your SPF record. It's got to list your scanner at the office. It's got to list your website if your website happens to have a form that is able to send emails from it. It's got to list your CRM, your customer relation manager. If you're sending emails from your CRM out to your customers, it's got to be in there. QuickBooks, any billing software, everything's got to be listed. The problem is, once you list all these things, the record gets too long. So it has some issues. The internet doesn't like too many lookups. It doesn't like you to list all these things, but you may have all these things that you need to list. So it's flawed slightly because it can get too many records. So the next one they came up with, maybe it's not in order, but the next one they came up with is called DKIM. Domain Keys Identified Mail. So fancy way of saying that domain key adds a little tag to the end of your email. So you send an email out, it tags a little hanger tag like Southwest puts on your luggage. And the receiving server, me, who's receiving the mail from you, will see that tag. I'll read that tag, and then I'll go use DNS, that thing that looks up stuff. I'll go use DNS, and I'll look up and verify in DNS. Remember, you can only get DNS services through your registrar. I'm going to go back to the DNS, and I'm going to verify that that tag that I got in the end of your email matches, not matches, but is a pair, is the keyed pair with the tag that's in your DNS. So it does this little lookup, and it's very nice. Like, you don't notice it's doing it. You see that email come in, it's already done this check. Problem with DKIM is not everything can support. Example is your Office scanner. You got a Kyocera or something Ricoh scanner, and it's just not that smart. It doesn't have the ability to add that tag and onto your email. So, and things can go wrong. If I take an email and I forward it off to somebody, sometimes the receiving server, this kind of weird thing, sometimes the receiving server gets hissy with that. If I forward a message, it thinks, because it looks like it may have been coming from you, it thinks it should still look up that tag, and it gets hissy. So things can go wrong. But this is kind of the gold standard. This is the one you want to strive for. You want to strive for this whenever you can, because it is a good double check. The last one. The last one's called DMARC. Domain-based, where do we come up with these things? Domain-based message authentication, reporting, and conformance. And if you dive into that, it's exactly what it means. It is message authentication. It is verifying where your message came from. So DMARC is kind of the hall monitor for these services. Its job is to tell the recipient, me, tell me or my server what to do if this email that you received passes or fails those other two tests. So did I get a DKIM, and is that DKIM valid? Did I look up this SPF, the Sender Protection Framework? Did I go look up and verify that they listed this sending server, and does that actually match where I got this email from? And if it does, what do I do with it? It can also monitor, it can be set to monitor, which is just letting us know, hey, what's going on. It can quarantine or it can reject that message. So monitor is kind of the most useful. It's where we start. We want to turn on the monitoring mode, and we want to have that sitting on for a while, because we can now get a report while it's in monitoring mode, went too far, about how things are passing or failing. So it lets us, before we really go into a full enforcement mode of this DMARC stuff, it will let us get reports on it and find out, yes, it's passing, no, it's not passing. Oh, look, this message just came from a weird scanner that we forgot to list in this thing. Now we're being alerted that we forgot that thing before we tell the recipient, hey, enforce this one. So it's the hall monitor, it's the traffic cop, it's telling people what they can and can't do and what they should and shouldn't do, and it's giving us a report card back on how things did. Did they pass? Did they fail? All right, so once again, SPF, Sender Protection Framework, lists the places you might send mail from, has a long list of them. DKIM adds a little tag to the end of your email, the little private key that it adds there. And DMARC is the hall monitor. It tells you what you should and shouldn't do with that email if it passes or fails either the SPF or the DKIM. Exciting. So exciting. So exciting. It's not exciting. See why I said this was kind of a dry one. Drink's good though. So SPF, Sender Protection Framework, again, lists all the places you may send mail from. This is what it looks like. It's ugly. It's really, really ugly. But that's what's sitting in your DNS record. And so what you got is, I've got a second for you here. The A is telling you how, why, don't have, whatever, doesn't matter. The A is saying, hey, I might send emails from my web server. Why? Well, it's because there's an A record that points to your web server. MX, I might send, so shock, I might send emails from my mail servers. That's what MX record is. I might also send you emails from this weird IP address. I don't know what that IP address is. I just copied this off the internet. I don't care. Or I might send you emails from Google Workspace. I might list Office, Microsoft Office. I might list my CRM. I might list, I might list my Office IP address because my printer may be sending them out directly from my office. The key to this is avoid too many lookups. The internet doesn't like to have to go back and do a bunch of these things. This one, spf.google.com, involved it now going to Google and getting its records. So it's another lookup. IPs are preferred. And then the last thing in here is checklist. Am I sure that I've listed everything that I might send an email from? If you are, the dash all is saying this is everything. The tilde all is, you're not really sure. I might have forgotten something. Maybe give me a little bit of latitude. And then these other ones are like, I don't fucking know. It's probably not right. I forgot to list a bunch of shit. Anyway, there's a bunch of sites to generate this. For clearly most of our clients, we go in and we generate this and we make sure it works, but you'll get weird questions from us like, hey, are you sure? Do you send from anything else? Do you send from QuickBooks? Do you send from this? Anyway, so that's us building that record out for you. So, all right, so DKIM, this is what a DKIM looks like. So this one's a little harder to set up. You actually have to go out to your emailing service. So you got to go to Microsoft, or you got to go to MailChimp, or you got to go to both of them for Constant Contact or whatever. And you go to that service and you ask them, hey, well, you don't ask them, clearly. You click on the button that says, hey, I need to set up DKIM. And they give you a record, and you go and add that record to your DNS. So you're letting them know, hey, I'm trying to set up DKIM. Give me the record I need to put in. Put that in the DNS. You wait 24 to 48 hours, and then you go back and you say, okay, can you verify the records there? Yes, does a check. Okay, cool. And then now I want you to start adding that tag onto my mailbox. And this is what the record looks like. Okay, this is actually what the record looks like. This is what kind of it looks like. DKIM, RSA, I think that's the encryption. I don't even know how to read this thing. It doesn't matter. They just tell you it's there. And then a long freaking thing of, let's see, yada, 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 random numbers and letters, yada, 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 whatever. But a large code. And this code will correspond with the code or tag that they're going to add onto this. That way, when I receive the email, it's got that tag on it. My computer can go out to the internet and say, does this match? Is this a key pair? Does these two work together? And verify that's me. So then you go back to your emailing service, you tell them to turn it on. And again, not everything supports this. Your copier in the office is not yet going to support this crap. It's just not that complicated yet. All right, here's the fun one. So DMARC, domain message authentication reporting and conformance. Look in the hall monitor. So this is the weird one. This one you actually have to go out and pay for a darn service pretty much. Kind of sucks. But it's because it's going out and it's asking Microsoft to send reports. It's asking Microsoft, hey, when you receive messages from me, tell me about them. Tell me what they look like. Tell me if they're passing SPF and DKIM. What's going on with these messages? They're going to send you these reports for all the messages you sent them that week or that day or whatever. So don't send them to your own email address. You'll never be able to read them. It would suck. It'd be horrible. You send them to a service. The service digests them. It looks at them. It picks them apart. And then it presents them in a format that somebody can understand. So in this case, this is a strong one. It's telling them, hey, if something is not matching my DKIM or SPF, and I set those to strict with an S, I want you to reject that. Most of the time when you're starting out, it's probably going to say it's done. I just want you to send me a report to this email address or this mailing service, really, the email address the service gives you. Send me a report about how I'm doing on my DKIM and SPF, how my messages that are coming in to you, Mr. Microsoft, to you, Mr. Google. How am I doing? So that I can tweak my email sent. So I can tweak everything and make it comply. Oh, wonderful Microsoft. Oh, wonderful Google. So you are specifying how strict you're going to be. Remember, within your SPF or within those other records, there's a strictness there too, but you can also tell us how strict or lax you might want to be. This is so much. The service that you subscribe to, and here's a couple, this is what I use, URI. You reports or URI port, I don't know. I don't even know how to say it. They're quite sweet. Whatever, they're great. Postmark, DMARC, there's a couple other services out there. A little word of warning. You own domains that you don't send emails from. I have a couple that I don't send emails from. You should still set up a DMARC for them. And you should basically say, reject everything. Because somebody might learn that you own that domain and they might start sending emails like it's coming from you. And if there's no DMARC, they might accept that it's you. And so, I mean, we only send email out from richline.cc, but we own richlinetechnical.com and something IT support, whatever. Anyway, so I should have one of these records for those because somebody might figure out that I own them. I have a reputable business They might decide to send emails to my customers as them. Maybe they get my customer list somehow. So they send emails spoofing my domain. And all of a sudden my customers are getting these emails that they think is for me, telling them to click on these links and do something. So domains that do not send emails should have a DMARC record set up. What does this report look like? This is what that report looks like. This is my domain and a couple other ones. You know, my wife's domain is I don't want to talk about that. So I'm getting reports on my domain and a couple customer ones in this one about how my records are doing. What ideally you want to see or that report tell me, oh yeah, I forgot about that service. But it also lets me know if that service can't support DKIM, and I know what this one is. This is sending on behalf of the that comes out through my email address. But if this service can't support DKIM, I need to make sure that I don't tell the receiving server to be too strict with it, because as long as it passes one or the other, then you should expect it. And I got a few. Fails. Another one down here. Fails. I gotta go. I got work to do. I gotta fix it. And again, 1.2 thousand messages sent out. You want this to go through a server. You don't want to even attempt to send this to an email address, especially not your email address, and sort through them yourself. So there you go. Why the F are my emails being received? That's it. That's nuts and bolts of it. It was longer than I thought. Sorry about that. Questions, comments, concerns? Need another drink?
What do people need to do? Go play.
Yes, they need to sign up for our service. No. I mean, this is theoretically doable for somebody. You know, the audience for the video is probably going to be those people that just want to do this stuff themselves. They don't want to pay somebody to do it, but yeah, that's what. Yeah. So for the most part, well, plus the other side of it is, yeah, I do it. I do it for your domain. I do it for that domain. I do it for that domain. I do it for that domain. Yeah. Yeah, the reality is though, is this is kind of educational. When I come to ask you about these crazy records, or when you aren't getting your emails received, you know, now you know why. Right now, I'm only having to worry about mass mailers. So your domain, a couple of my nonprofits that send out thousands of emails for, like Ronald McDonald House send out thousands of emails for men who cook or whatever. I've got to get those solved today. But I know probably by the end of the year, I got to get everybody else.
So on the push down side, so we send, you know, the largest, what you can call it, mass email, we send dailies or invoice,
right? Which
might be 150 to 200 on the worst days.
Yeah. So you're not going to be in that mass list for a while.
For a while, you said it will trickle down.
These rules will trickle down. I don't know how long that'll take. It's hard to say, you know, with these sort of things.
We got in front of it now before we have to.
Yeah, what they're trying to do, and it's generally just trying to curb spam and scams. Get these people to start putting these things in place to start proving identity. Once identity is being proven, we can do lots of different things. We can pop a badge up that says, yes, we verified that this email is really from Brad and CC Gaskin. So it's like the Twitter marks. Look, I verified it. Like, so now we're able to start curbing scams and things like that. So it's these sort of records that it's step one, step two. The internet moves at a very slow pace, believe it or not, for these sort of changes. So that's what we're trying to do.
We have a long history of our employees opening emails,
right,
and then forwarding them to me because they're viruses, to make sure I can make sure it's okay to do a potential virus.
Right. Yep. Just double click on it.
That's why I call dirty. That's why I call over dirty G, because he literally sent me, "Hey, this is a virus. Can you check this out for me?" I'm like, why? To me, I think I have a cold. Stays you open your mouth when I sneeze.
Yeah.
Let's feel like crap.
Yeah.
So I call it dirty Jake. I'm like, dude. Anyway, sorry.
But yeah, it's essentially what we're doing. We're trying to help establish identity with trying to stop. I don't think this is necessarily going to stop spam. In theory, proving identity will help stop scam more than spam.
Gotcha, okay.
Because the funny thing about this is, anybody can go out and register richlines.com.
Right. You're flying without a second eye.
Yeah, without a second eye. And they can get the registrar to prove that that's them. It really is them. They paid for the dang domain. And they can set up a DKIM and a DMARC and an SPF and all these sort of things, and they can send out something. So spam doesn't necessarily get curbed. Identity is what we're trying to curb.
There's definitely a security benefit with
Yeah.
this so that you don't get scams.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As all.
Plus, we're starting to put these. You're starting to layer on these sort of security features so that you can then utilize them more later. As okay, now 50% of the world or 80% of the world starting to use this. Now let's take that next step. Now that people are using it, let's actually give them a passport, a certified. This is a government thing saying that your email is really who it's from.
Well, I'm saying, I guess there's some companies that today, for instance, we're moving to our new ERP software, and so we, as a test today, we sent so I logged in online and we sent a test invoice or a PO or something to, I emailed it to me, and I received Authenticator from AWS.
Yeah.
Just, verify your email. I'm saying it more and more, hey, verify your email before we can do this. I'm sure there's companies that are way out in front of this. So would it be similar to that?
It's similar to that sort of thing. AWS wants to verify that you actually own that domain. So they're going to send you an
So they're
email.
really looking at it at the domain level, not the individual.
Generally, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes, it would send you an email to an email address that ends in that, verifying that you actually exist, that you actually own this domain.
So then it covers everyone, so it's not like, okay.
Yeah, this
Makes more, yeah, you were talking about more than domains than the specific. But I saw there was an IP address, but I guess there's a parent IP and then you have.
Yeah, so that would be your public IP or your server's IP address.
That's the one that I
That's not your workstation. That your internal workstation has a private IP address, but your Spectrum or whatever it is, AT&T, that has a public IP address that's assigned to your building or your.
I've seen those searches. In fact, I had to do one earlier this week on something that was an issue. ERP system. Hey, then it came back. Oh, they said, that's not even out there. I didn't realize there was you could ping someone's address for an IP, to a physical address. I thought it was sort of just. Yeah. But on the host or on the wherever it was,
and not everybody's is assigned down to the street level, but you can get block level or you can get at least city level, and you can tell where they're at. Yep.